Some mornings, when the first sunlight slips through the leaves, our hearts soften at the sight of a small flower by the roadside, or at a stranger's gaze filled with kindness. That is the moment when compassion gently touches us, soft as the wind, yet deep enough to move an entire day. The Buddha's teaching on compassion is not something distant or lofty, but the simple act of opening our hearts, seeing others with understanding rather than judgment. When we open our hearts to others, we also give ourselves the chance to be healed. Compassion is not only about pitying those in pain, but also about being ready to share joy, to lift someone up when they falter. Sometimes, just a caring question or a gentle smile can become a small bridge helping someone cross over from loneliness and despair. In the rush of life, compassion is like a small lamp, lighting the dark corners of the heart so that each step, ours and theirs, feels less cold. Thank you for accompanying Let Go, Find Peace. Please subscribe to help spread positive energy every day. The Buddha taught that when we nurture compassion, we not only ease others' suffering, but also purify our own minds. A heart that is open will not be easily wounded by selfishness or hatred. And when we see others with compassion, we realize that although everyone carries their own story, all share the same longing to be loved and to be at peace. Let compassion flow like a cool stream, nourishing each thought, each word, each action. For once we open our hearts to others, the world around us will open its heart to us. In that giving and receiving, we find a simple yet enduring peace. To speak of the deeper meaning of compassion, we must start from the smallest things, like a drop of rain soaking into dry soil or a ray of sunlight warming a winter morning. Compassion is not an abstract idea reserved for books or monks. It is the breath, the rhythm of life, the way we face and treat everyone and everything around us. In the Buddha's teaching, compassion has two aspects: metta, bringing joy to others, and karuna, soothing their suffering. True compassion goes beyond pity. It is understanding the root of another's pain, and from there, acting, supporting, and sharing. When our hearts truly open to others, we not only help them, but also free ourselves from the chains of selfishness, anger, and indifference. In life, everyone carries invisible burdens. Some worry about daily survival, some are scarred by the past, some are weary from unnamed pressures. When we meet them with an empathetic gaze or a gentle word, we plant a seed of peace in their hearts. And if nurtured, that seed will grow, bloom, and spread its fragrance, not just for them, but for all around them. The Buddha once taught that compassion is the heart that trembles at the suffering of all beings, with a sincere wish to help them be free from it. This is what distinguishes a heart that merely sympathizes for a moment from one that is truly open. When we see an old person trembling while crossing the street, a child dropping a sandal in the rain, or a friend's voice faltering as they speak of life's hardships, compassion doesn't just make us ache, it urges us to act, even in the smallest ways. The deeper meaning of compassion lies in its impartiality. We do not show compassion only to loved ones, but also to those who have hurt us. The Buddha understood that hurtful actions often come from hearts already in pain. When we are generous enough not to return hatred with hatred, we break the cycle of anger. This is not easy, but it is the path to inner freedom. Compassion is also a mirror reflecting ourselves. When we treat others gently, we learn to be gentle with ourselves. When we forgive others' mistakes, we open the door to forgiving our own. Many live their whole lives in regret for past wrongs, and compassion is the key to a new path where we can begin again, unburdened by the past. In healing, compassion is like cool, pure water washing away the dust that has settled on the soul. It helps us see life more lightly, see others more kindly, and see that we too deserve love. When compassion is present, comparison, rivalry, and envy naturally fade away because we realize that others' joy is also our joy. The Buddha often used the image of the lotus in the mud to speak of compassion. The lotus rises from muddy water yet remains untainted, releasing a pure fragrance. So it is with compassion. Though we live amid gossip, selfishness, and anger, we can keep our hearts pure, always turning toward the light. This is the strength that keeps those with compassion at peace, for they know the only thing worth guarding is a whole, unbroken heart. Ultimately, the greatest meaning of compassion is connection. When we truly open our hearts, the distance between people disappears. We no longer stand alone, but as part of a greater flow, the flow of life and love. In that connection, both we and the world are healed. So let compassion be not just a beautiful idea, but a way of life. Begin with the smallest acts, a kind word, a held hand, a patient ear. Each day, sow a little compassion so that one day, when we look back, our life will be a garden of peace, where everyone finds a place to rest and every heart finds its way home. There are moments that seem so small, yet touch the human heart deeply, and a smile for a stranger is one of them. It is not merely an expression on the face, but an invisible bridge connecting two souls who have never met. In the rush of life, when everyone is caught up in work and their own thoughts, an unexpected smile can slow someone's steps, reminding them that the world still holds warmth and kindness. Imagine standing at a bus stop in a cold drizzle, your coat already soaked. Around you, everyone keeps their head down, avoiding eye contact. Suddenly, someone walking by gives you a gentle smile, their eyes seeming to say, "I see you here, and I wish you a good day." Just like that, some of the gloom lifts, as if someone had handed you a little light. You don't know their name, and they don't know yours, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that in that moment, you realize you are not completely alone in the flow of life. A smile for a stranger also carries the power to spread. When we receive one, our hearts often want to give one back. Just like when someone gives up their seat for us or holds the door open, we naturally respond with a sincere smile. And so, the circle of kindness expands, touching people who may never meet each other. In Buddhism, this is close to metta, opening the heart and sharing positive energy without expecting anything in return. A smile, though simple, is a form of invisible giving. It costs nothing, yet can plant seeds of peace in another's heart. In a world where people can grow distant under the weight of pressure, worries, and prejudice, a smile for a stranger is a gentle reminder that we are still living together on the same planet, still able to choose kindness toward each other. Perhaps the person you smile at today is having a hard day, just lost a job, or received bad news. They may not tell anyone, but your smile could be the little warmth they need to stand back up. Sometimes, a smile is all someone needs to remember that life is still worth living. However, for a smile to truly have power, it must come from sincerity. A forced or superficial smile is easy to recognize and loses its meaning. In contrast, a smile born from genuine kindness carries healing energy, like sunlight slipping through a doorway, gentle yet warm. The Buddha taught, when the mind is at peace, the smile is natural. This means that when we nurture inner calm, our smile becomes a natural bridge between ourselves and the world. So try smiling at a stranger each day. It could be the busy cashier, the guard at the school gate, or the street sweeper working in the early morning. At first, you might feel shy or worry they'll misunderstand, but soon you'll realize that if the smile comes from true goodwill, it will be received, and sometimes it may even become a cherished memory for someone. Like dropping a pebble into a pond, its ripples will travel far, reaching shores you never imagined. The lesson here is simple. Human connection does not have to begin with long conversations or grand gestures. Sometimes a smile is enough to say, "I see you. I value your presence." And in such small acts, the world becomes softer, gentler, and more compassionate. There is something curious about life. Often we hear, but we do not truly listen. Our ears may take in each sound, yet our minds wander elsewhere, thinking about work, future plans, or sorrows not yet healed. Because of this, the person in front of us may speak at length, but what they receive is only the hollow silence of a half-closed door, letting no warmth in. The Buddha once taught that listening is an art, and to truly listen, we must use the heart as well as the ears. Listening with the heart means letting go of judgment, setting aside the ego, and placing ourselves in the speaker's position. Then, we hear not only the words, but also the voice within, the things left unspoken. Some sorrows have no name, hiding instead in the eyes or in the slight tremble of a voice. If we listen only with our ears, we will miss those subtle vibrations. But when we open our hearts, we realize that behind every story is another story, and behind every silence is a feeling waiting to be touched. Listening with the heart tells the other person that they are respected, understood, and safe to share. In Buddhism, listening is also a method of healing. Someone in pain may not need immediate advice, but rather a space to pour out their feelings. When we listen fully, without interrupting, without rushing to give our opinion, our calm presence itself becomes medicine. Because when someone is truly heard, they feel lighter, as if part of the burden in their heart has been lifted. Listening with the heart also requires patience. Not everyone can express their feelings clearly. Sometimes they speak in circles, hesitate, or say things that seem unrelated. But if we are patient enough, we will notice the flow of emotion leading them towards something important. It's like sitting beside a stream. Only when we are truly still can we hear the gentle trickle amid countless other sounds. The interesting thing is that when we listen to others with our whole heart, we are also learning to listen to ourselves. Often our own soul sends us subtle signals, a feeling of fatigue, a sudden spark of joy that we ignore because we are too busy. Try sitting still, taking a deep breath, and asking yourself, how am I feeling right now? Only when we know how to listen to ourselves can we truly listen to others in a complete way. From the perspective of life's wisdom, listening with the heart helps us build strong and warm relationships. It is the foundation of trust. People will open their hearts to us more easily when they know that, whether in joy or sorrow, they will always be received. And sometimes in such conversations, misunderstandings are resolved and wounds are soothed. The Buddha taught, listen to understand, look to love. When we listen to understand, we do not seek to argue or prove ourselves right. We simply want to know the other person's story. When we look to love, we do not seek faults, but seek reasons to empathize. Listening with the heart is the perfect combination of these two, so that each conversation is not only an exchange of information, but also an exchange of compassion. Finally, remember that listening is not about silently enduring. It is an active, loving act. It requires focus, patience, and complete presence. Listen as if, in that moment, the person before you is the most important thing. And when we offer our sincere listening, we receive more than just words of thanks. We receive connection, trust, and relationships nurtured by love. Because deep down, everyone longs to be heard. And when we know how to listen with our whole heart, the world around us will grow gentler and our own soul will open wider each day. There are times when we judge someone only by their outward appearance or by what we have heard from others. We quickly label them. This person is unfriendly. That person is not trustworthy. They must be nothing special. These prejudices are like a fogged glass, preventing us from seeing their true nature. The more tightly we hold on to these thoughts, the more distant we become, missing the chance to connect, understand, and appreciate one another. Imagine meeting a new colleague. You hear from someone that they are cold and quiet, so you keep your distance and avoid conversation. But one day, while working together on a project, you see them patiently explaining every detail, staying late to support the team. It turns out that the coldness was only a surface trait, hiding a sincere heart. If you had clung to your prejudice from the start, you might never have discovered this. In life, prejudice can form for many reasons: personal experiences, rumors, or familiar stereotypes. But no matter its origin, it narrows our vision. It's like standing before a garden and seeing only a closed gate. You will never see the vibrant flowers inside. The Buddha taught, do not believe in something just because you have heard or seen it. Observe for yourself, experience for yourself. When we open our hearts, we have the chance to approach the truth instead of living in the midst of assumptions. Letting go of prejudice is not easy. It requires humility to admit that we may have been wrong. It also takes courage to accept that every person has unseen corners and untold stories. But when we are willing to set aside our initial judgments, we see a broader, more colorful world. The person we thought was selfish may be quietly helping many people. The one we assumed to be indifferent may be carrying a pain they share with no one. There is a small story. A boy was often teased by classmates for wearing old clothes. The whole class thought he was poor, uneducated, and stayed away from him. But one day, during a running race, he stopped to help a friend who had fallen, even though it cost him the chance to win. In that moment, the class realized that a person's worth lies not in their clothes or appearance, but in a heart that knows how to love and share. Had they not carried their prejudice, they might have valued him long before. The life lesson here is clear. When we let go of prejudice, we give ourselves the chance to learn and open our hearts. Each person is a story, a lesson, and a treasure. Only when we are free from the limits of fixed thinking can we see and embrace those good things. Letting go of prejudice also brings freedom to the soul. We no longer carry the burden of unfounded judgments or the fatigue of keeping distance from others for reasons never proven. Instead, we live lighter, more open, and our relationships with the world grow richer and deeper. Sometimes, opening our hearts to see someone anew not only changes how we see them, it also changes how we see ourselves. And perhaps, when we set down our prejudices, we are also giving someone the chance to reveal the best part of themselves, the part they never thought anyone would recognize. Deep down, everyone longs to be seen with fairness and empathy. When we offer that, we are planting seeds of kindness and understanding, seeds that may one day blossom in our own lives. In life, we often think that love is shown through gifts, financial help, or tangible offerings. But the longer we live, the more we realize there is a gift far more precious: our time and our presence. Material things can fade or be lost, but the moments we truly spend together will live on in the hearts of those who receive them. The Buddha once taught that the most valuable thing we can give one another is our mind and intention. When we are fully present with someone, we are offering them something no amount of money can buy: a true connection. Presence is not merely being in the same place. It is having our hearts and minds there, undistracted by other concerns. It's when we converse without glancing at our phones, when we use our eyes, smiles, and attention to say, "I am here with you." Some people are rich in material wealth, but poor in affection, because they know how to give gifts, but not themselves. A child may be given countless toys by their parents, but without evenings spent together, bedtime stories, or simple moments of closeness, their soul may still long for warmth. Conversely, a modest meal shared with laughter and caring glances can make one feel truly at home, the safest place to be. From a Buddhist perspective, presence is an essential part of mindfulness. When we give someone our full attention, we are also practicing mindfulness, living fully in the present moment. That presence not only brings happiness to the other person, it also nourishes us as we deepen our connection with those who matter most. It is also a form of healing, because in the moment of being present, our minds rest, no longer lost in the past or the future, simply here to love. Presence also has the power to soothe wounds that words or money cannot heal. Someone in pain may not need advice or gifts. They may only need us to sit beside them, silently listen, or hold their hand. The feeling of not being abandoned is sometimes the strongest medicine of all. Life's wisdom also reminds us that time is the one gift we cannot take back once given. Therefore, when we choose to share our time with someone, we are telling them they matter, that they are worthy. How we spend our time speaks volumes about the value we place on a relationship. And so we must ask ourselves, who and what are we giving our time to? Take a moment to reflect. How long has it been since you've had a complete meal with your family? Since you've called an old friend just to ask how they are? Since you've sat down to talk with yourself, to hear what your own heart wants? When we realize this, we see that the greatest gift we can give others and ourselves does not come in a box with a ribbon. It lies in the moments we are truly present. The Buddha taught, live as if today were your last. not to rush us, but to remind us to cherish every moment. Because one day, we will see that what remains is not the money we spent, but the afternoons watching sunsets together, the stories we told during the rain, or the warmth in the eyes of those we love. So, let us give more of our time and presence. When someone speaks, look into their eyes. When someone needs you, be willing to stay. When you're with family, put your phone aside. These seemingly small acts will create memories deeper and longer lasting than any material gift. And when we look back on our lives, we will see that happiness is not measured by wealth, but by the moments we truly lived, truly connected, and truly loved. There are days when our hearts feel like a lake stirred by storms. A single harsh word or a cold gesture can be enough to make us feel hurt and lost. But there are also moments when just one gentle word or a soft inquiry can soothe all the tension inside. Words, when used wisely, can be as powerful as a healing medicine, cost-free, unadorned, yet bringing profound warmth to the listener's soul. After a long, tiring day at work, you return home feeling weary. All day you have heard urgings, complaints, and criticisms. Then a loved one softly says, "You must be tired today. Sit down and rest for a while." Just that, and it feels like cool water flowing through your heart, washing away the heaviness. Those words are more than a casual remark. They carry understanding and empathy, like a gentle hand resting on your shoulder, calming and comforting you. In life, gentle words can open doors that strength or logic cannot. When someone is angry, a sharp reply will only make the fire burn hotter. But a slow, soft response can quiet the anger, like a breeze over cooling embers. The Buddha once taught, "Words are like sweet honey. When spoken, they bring joy to both the speaker and the listener." Thus, gentle words not only heal those who receive them, but also nurture kindness in the hearts of those who give them. There is a small story. A teacher once had a student who was often disruptive and frequently complained about. Instead of scolding him, the teacher gently said, "I know you're intelligent. You just haven't learned to use that intelligence at the right time." That sentence planted a seed in the boy's heart. A few years later, he became a model student, always remembering that it was his teacher's gentle words that changed the way he saw himself. Had those words been harsh criticism, he might have closed his heart and missed the chance to change. Gentle words do not always mean weakness or avoiding the truth. Sometimes we still need to say what is difficult to hear, but we can choose a way of expressing it that makes it easier for others to accept. Just as a doctor may prescribe bitter medicine, but mix in some honey so the patient can swallow it, we too can offer feedback with respect and goodwill. When words come from a kind heart, they have the power to heal rather than harm. The life lesson here is, before speaking, consider what your words will plant in the listener's heart. A wound or a seed of peace. A cruel remark can leave a scar for life, but a gentle word can become the motivation for someone to rise and keep going. And sometimes, we also need to learn to be gentle with ourselves, telling ourselves warm, encouraging words instead of constant criticism. For if our hearts are already filled with gentleness, our words can carry that healing to others. Perhaps today, a simple, "It's okay, things will get better" from you could be the lifeline that pulls someone out of despair. Perhaps a "I believe in you" could open the door to hope. Gentle words cost little effort, but can hold value far beyond what we imagine. And who knows, those words you give today may return to heal you someday, when you need comfort from life. There is a simple yet profound truth. This world is beautiful because it is diverse. Just as a garden cannot be filled with only roses, life cannot be filled with only people who are the same. Everyone we meet carries their own color, their own story, their own way of seeing the world. And it is precisely these differences that create life's vibrant tapestry. The Buddha taught that all beings have their own causes, karmic conditions, and unique paths of practice. No two people are completely alike, for each has walked through different experiences and gathered different understandings. If we try to force everyone to think, feel, or act like us, we are denying this truth and robbing ourselves of the chance to learn. Respecting differences is not merely a matter of social courtesy. It is a virtue, a wise way of living. For when we value differences, we open the door to harmony. Harmony does not mean absolute agreement. It means people can coexist and work together despite holding different perspectives. In life, conflicts often arise not from who is right or wrong, but from someone trying to impose their version of right on others. When we listen and understand the reasons behind differences, we realize that most differences are not meant to divide, but to complement each other. Like water and soil, seemingly opposite, yet together, they create life for plants. From a healing perspective, respecting differences helps our hearts open wider, less prone to anger or hurt. When we no longer expect everyone to be like us, we won't be disappointed when they're not. It's like accepting that a daisy cannot bloom like a lotus, but is still beautiful in its own way. The more we accept this, the lighter we live, and the less we get caught up in unnecessary arguments. Buddhism emphasizes compassion paired with wisdom. Compassion helps us love all beings, even in their differences. Wisdom helps us see that differences are natural and necessary. When combined, we know how to act skillfully, without judgment or exclusion, but by finding common ground for connection. Life's lessons also show us that society progresses only when there are many perspectives. A group where everyone thinks alike easily falls into stagnation. Differences, when respected and nurtured, become an endless source of creativity. In a family, generational differences may cause conflict, but if everyone is willing to listen, those differences can actually bring deeper understanding and stronger bonds. Respecting differences does not mean agreeing with everything. It means accepting another person's right to be different. We may still hold our own views, but we do not belittle or dismiss theirs. This is a challenge to the ego, but also an opportunity for growth. The Buddha once said, "Just as the ocean has one taste salty, my teaching has one taste liberation." Though our paths differ, the ultimate aim of each person is to seek happiness and peace. When we understand this, we stop arguing over whose path is better and focus instead on helping each person walk steadily on their own. So let us learn to see differences with gratitude. Grateful because they expand our vision. Grateful because they teach us patience, listening, and tolerance. And grateful because they make life rich and worth living. Once we know how to respect differences, our hearts will be as vast as the ocean, able to hold all waves, big or small. And in that moment, we will truly touch harmony. Not the harmony of sameness, but the harmony of different things existing together in love. There are times when we look at someone's actions or words and rush to a conclusion. We easily judge, blame, or feel irritated, forgetting that behind that action may be a story we've never heard. Only when we learn to put ourselves in another person's place can we truly understand what they are going through, and only then can we offer empathy instead of criticism. One morning, you're standing in line for coffee. The person in front of you seems confused, taking a long time to decide what to order. You start to grow impatient, thinking they are inconsiderate. But when they turn around, you notice their red eyes and trembling hands. They had spent the entire night caring for a gravely ill loved one. If we had known their story from the start, perhaps our frustration would have given way to compassion. And that can only happen when we step outside our own perspective and try to live for a moment in someone else's world. Putting ourselves in another's position is not just a social skill, it's a way to cultivate compassion. When we see life through someone else's eyes, we realize that everyone carries their own worries, pressures, and desires. Some are trying to smile despite storms raging inside. Some choose silence for fear their words might hurt others. Some appear strong only because they don't want anyone to see their vulnerability. There's a small story. A boy often arrived late to class and was frequently scolded by his teacher. Many classmates thought he was lazy and disrespectful of time. But one day, the teacher discovered he had to take his younger sibling to kindergarten every morning before running to school. From then on, she no longer reacted with anger, but instead found ways to help him manage his time better. Compassion transformed their relationship, and the boy tried even harder not to disappoint her trust. The life lesson here is this: if we want to understand and connect with someone, we must first set aside our ego and see the situation through their lens. Doing so not only helps us control hasty reactions, but also opens doors to genuine connection. When we listen and understand, invisible walls gradually disappear, replaced by trust and kindness. Learning to put ourselves in others' shoes is also learning to soften our own hearts. When we understand the reason behind an action, we become less angry, less hurt. Instead of asking, "Why did they do this to me?" we might ask, "What have they gone through to act this way?" This shift in perspective is the key to unlocking forgiveness and inner peace. And sometimes we also wish others would put themselves in our position, to understand us, to not judge too quickly. So, if we hope to receive empathy, we should be the ones to offer it first. Because who knows, one day, the compassion we sow now might become the support that helps us stand when we face hardship. There are times when we give love with a silent hope that we will receive something in return, even if it's just a thank you, a grateful look, or a small gesture of acknowledgement. But in life, love is not always returned as we expect. Sometimes the silence, indifference, or even apathy of others can leave us feeling disappointed. If we're not careful, we may slowly close our hearts, becoming reluctant to give again. The Buddha taught that true love is unconditional, giving without the condition of receiving. Love that demands or calculates becomes a transaction rather than a gift. Unconditional love is like sunlight. It shines on all things, choosing no place, expecting nothing in return. Trees cannot repay the sun, yet the sun still shines every day. When we love without expecting anything back, our hearts become much lighter. We no longer measure who gives us how much or how they respond. We give because it feels natural, like a stream flowing, like flowers blooming. The act of giving itself is the joy, not the outcome. This is also a form of healing because it frees us from depending on others for our happiness. This does not mean we should allow ourselves to be exploited or endure harm. Unconditional love goes hand in hand with wisdom, knowing when, how, and within what limits to give. We give while keeping our hearts whole, because if our hearts are depleted, we will have nothing left to give. In daily life, unconditional love shows itself in simple ways. When we smile at a stranger on the street, not knowing if they will smile back. When we help an elderly person cross the road without needing anyone to see and praise us. When we cook a good meal for our family, not for recognition, but simply to fill their stomachs and bring them happiness. Buddhism also emphasizes that unconditional love is an expression of compassion. Compassion does not distinguish between close and distant, and does not wait for reciprocation. We love because we understand, because we see another's suffering as our own. This kind of love is calm and free, unbound by expectation. Loving without waiting for something in return also helps us feel less disappointment and resentment. When we expect too much, we are easily hurt when those expectations are not met. But when we simply give, whatever others do in response will no longer weigh on our hearts. We will feel more at ease because our happiness is no longer dependent on anyone's approval. Life's wisdom also teaches that the true value of love lies not in how it is returned, but in how it is given. A kind act, a gesture of care, can quietly change someone's day or even their life, whether or not they ever speak of it. And sometimes, love that expects nothing in return brings the most unexpected rewards. A seed of love planted today may sprout on a day we least expect. Perhaps years later, someone will remember a good deed we once did and send a little warmth back our way. But even if that never happens, the love we give is never lost. It has already enriched our own hearts. So, let us love like the rain falls, quietly, gently, yet deeply. Let us love like the wind blows, without clinging, yet bringing refreshment. Let our hearts be open, not because someone is worthy, but because love is the most natural state of a peaceful heart. When we live this way, we realize that happiness does not come from how much love we receive, but from how much we can give, purely, without demand, without condition, without expectation. And in that moment, we are truly free. Someone once said that to light another's lamp, we must first keep our own lamp burning bright. Compassion is the same. Before we can give love, empathy, and forgiveness to others, we must learn to love ourselves first. For if our hearts are empty, weary, and wounded, what we give will only be forced, reluctant, or sometimes a sacrifice so great that we lose ourselves. Loving ourselves does not mean selfishness or thinking only of our own needs. It is cherishing and caring for our soul, body, and emotions as we would for the person we love most. When we listen to our body and rest when tired, when we say no to things that harm us, and when we forgive ourselves for mistakes, we are planting the first seeds of compassion within. Imagine someone who constantly tries to please others. They help, give, and sacrifice, yet forget that they too need care and attention. One day, they find themselves exhausted, discouraged, and even resentful toward those they once loved. When we forget to love ourselves, our love for others can turn into a burden because it is not being sustained by healthy energy. In Buddhism, compassion is not only directed outward, it is also turned inward. The Buddha taught that if we treat ourselves with kindness, we will understand that all beings wish to be happy and avoid suffering, just as we do. Then compassion for others is no longer a duty, but a natural, gentle, and unconditional flow. There is a gentle story. A woman always cared for her family, friends, and colleagues, to the point she had no time for herself. One day she fell ill and had to stay in bed for several days. During that time, she realized she had never truly listened to her body or allowed herself to rest without guilt. She began to change, reading, meditating, exercising, and learning to say no when necessary. From then on, her energy became warm and abundant, and those around her could clearly feel her peace. The life lesson here is this: compassion begins with loving yourself, because only when your heart is full of peace can you give love completely. When we care for ourselves, physically and mentally, we lay a solid foundation for all relationships. We no longer give from emptiness, but from wholeness. And when we love ourselves, we become less harsh toward ourselves, less self-blaming when we make mistakes, and more willing to forgive others' faults. We understand that everyone is on a journey of learning and growth. Just as we need gentleness from others, they too need gentleness from us. When each morning we can smile at ourselves in the mirror and say, "Today I will be kind to myself," that is already a big step toward nurturing compassion. From that kindness, good things will quietly spread, not loudly or showily, but enough to warm both our own hearts and the hearts of those we meet along the way. There are pains buried deep within people, unspoken, unnamed, and sometimes even the one carrying them does not know how to define them. They may be a long, sleeping, sad memory that still leaves a scar in the heart, a quiet loss witnessed by no one, or the creeping loneliness that slips into long nights unnoticed. These pains, unexpressed, grow more silent, more smoldering, and sometimes heavier than anything visible to the eye. The Buddha taught that all beings carry suffering, whether great or small. Sometimes suffering is visible, sometimes it is hidden, like an underground current. That is why compassion is the bridge that brings us closer, not only to those who openly share their sadness, but also to those who remain silent. To empathize with unspoken pain is to open our hearts to understand the gaps, the silences, and the faintest signs of hurt. In life, there are people who smile and laugh every day, yet behind that smile lies a heart hardened by loneliness. There are those who always help others, but return to an empty room and withdraw into the dark. There are those who face everything with strength, but only dare to cry when they are alone. If we only look on the surface, we may easily think they are fine. But when we listen with our whole heart, we will realize they too need a warm presence, a non-judgmental gaze, and arms wide enough to embrace their invisible wounds. Empathizing with silent pain is not about trying to fix or solve things for others. It is first and foremost to let them know you are not alone. Sometimes just a nod, a gentle hand holding theirs, or a simple "I understand" is enough for them to feel accepted and comforted. This is the kind of healing that Buddhism often speaks of, healing through presence and empathy, not merely through advice or action. Life's wisdom teaches that each person is a story, and we can never know everything they have been through. That is why compassion should be a constant habit, not only when we see someone openly expressing sadness, but even when they are silent. As we pass someone by, remember that they may be fighting battles we will never know about. And so, instead of judging, choose to love. The Buddha once said, "One who can empathize with the suffering of all beings is one who plants the seeds of compassion." Compassion here is not just pity, it is the willingness to slow down and understand. When we understand, we won't rush to react when someone behaves unpleasantly, nor will we jump to conclusions when someone seems distant, because perhaps behind those actions is a pain they cannot speak of. Empathizing with silent pain also helps us grow and find greater peace. When we can look deeply into others, we become less resentful, less calculating, and less easily hurt by small conflicts. We understand that sometimes another's reaction is not a reflection of our worth, but of the wounds they carry. On this journey, mindfulness is the key. When we practice mindfulness, we are fully present with others, sensitive enough to notice subtle signs, an averted gaze, a long sigh, or a pause between words. That is when we can gently open a safe space for them to be themselves. And remember, compassion does not require grand gestures. A warm smile, a sincere question, or simply sitting beside someone without doing anything at all. Sometimes that is enough. What matters is that our hearts truly wish to understand and uplift. In the end, when we learn to empathize with the unspoken pains, the world around us will become gentler. We will see that people connect not only through joy and laughter, but also through sharing and empathy in the hardest moments. And in that very process, both we and they are healed, not loudly or showily, but quietly and enduringly, like the soft light of dawn. There are times when we think we can only help others once we are wealthy or have plenty. We wait until we have more time to listen to someone, until we have extra money to share, or until we feel good enough to open our hearts. But the truth is, kindness doesn't need to wait for abundance. Helping others, even when we are not in surplus, is the most precious gift, because it is given from sincerity without calculation. And sometimes it is in scarcity that we truly understand the value of sharing. One rainy afternoon, you are on your way home with just enough money in your pocket for your own dinner. Suddenly, you see an elderly person standing by the roadside, shivering, with a thin raincoat barely shielding them from the cold wind. You hesitate for a moment, then decide to stop at a small shop to buy them a new raincoat. You know this will make your dinner less filling, but your heart feels strangely warm, because when you see their grateful smile, you understand that you have just planted a seed of goodness, and that seed will grow in both your hearts. In life, helping does not have to be grand. Sometimes a few words of encouragement to someone in despair, a hand to lift someone who has stumbled, or patient listening to their sad story is already a priceless gift. The Buddha taught, when giving, do not look at the amount, look at the heart. What matters is that we are willing to open our hearts even when we ourselves still have worries, because in that moment, kindness comes not from abundance, but from deep compassion. There is a story. In a poor village, a man gave a portion of his own rice every day to a stray dog. People asked him why he didn't keep it for himself, since his meals were already small. He simply smiled and said, "It's hungry just like me. If I share a little, we both survive." What seemed small sparked change. Many villagers began paying more attention to stray animals, and together they created a small shelter for them. A seed of kindness, when planted at the right moment, can spread farther than we imagine. The life lesson here is this: helping others when we are not yet abundant not only brings joy to them, but enriches our own soul. When we dare to share from what little we have, we send the message that love needs no conditions and is not bound by material wealth. In that very act, we also learn that true happiness is not about having much, but about feeling enough to be able to give. And miraculously, When we give even while we are still struggling, life often finds a way to return it to us in unexpected ways. It might be a new opportunity, a good friend, or simply a moment when, in our own weariness, someone reaches out to help. Kindness always finds its way back, because when we give it away, it does not disappear. It simply changes form, waiting for the day it returns to us. So if today you meet someone in need, don't wait till you feel comfortable to act. A little of your time, a little effort, a little sharing, even if small, can still be the light in someone's darkest day. And sometimes that very light will shine back and guide us forward on our own path. There are stumbles in life that hurt so much we wish to forget them quickly. Yet when we look back calmly, we realize those falls taught us precious lessons about patience, about getting back up, and about being gentle with ourselves. If we keep those lessons only to ourselves, we might feel lighter, but we miss the chance to help someone else avoid the rocky road we once walked. The Buddha taught that everything we go through, whether joyful or painful, is a condition for our growth. And when we share our life experience, we are not merely passing on knowledge or skills, we are offering a part of our heart, a piece of our understanding to another person. It is an act of compassion, wishing to help someone suffer less and lose their way less, much like holding a lantern to light the path for those who come after. Sharing life experiences is not about boasting of what we've been through, nor is it about judging or imposing. Rather, it is a quiet conversation, like an older sibling, a mentor, or a friend sharing a story over tea, hoping the listener will take something useful for their own journey. In life, everyone makes mistakes. Some learn to manage money after falling into debt. Some learn to value their health only after battling illness. Some realize the worth of a relationship only after losing it. When we recount these lessons sincerely, without hiding, we give others the chance to learn from our experience without paying the same price we once paid. From a healing perspective, sharing our experiences also lightens our own hearts. When we tell an old story, we see how far we've come, how strong we've been to overcome it. We are no longer trapped in past pain. Instead, we transform it into a gift for the present and the future. And when we see someone avoid a mistake thanks to our words, we feel a quiet joy, the joy of planting a seed of goodness in life. Life's wisdom also reminds us that humans are part of one another. What we know and learn, if kept to ourselves, remains still in a corner. But if we share it, it can spread, connect, and become a collective strength. Like a flame, when we use our flame to light another's candle, the light is not lost but grows brighter. Still, sharing experiences requires skill. Not everyone is ready to listen, and not every piece of advice will be welcomed. That's why the Buddha taught to share with mindfulness, choosing the right time, the right words, and the right attitude. Tell your story with humility, avoiding the sense of being above the listener. Let your story be an invitation to reflect, not a command to follow. Sometimes what we share will not prevent every stumble. People may still need to experience things firsthand to truly understand. But even then, our story can be a support, a memory they recall when facing a difficult choice. They might not grasp it fully today, but one day, in the midst of uncertainty, they will remember what we told them. And in that moment, it will become a guiding light. Buddhism sees the sharing of experience, understanding, and wisdom as a noble vow. It is how we advance together on life's path and the spiritual path. No one walks alone. We walk together, support each other, and help one another avoid the pitfalls that once caught those before us. So if you have stumbled, don't see it as only a sad memory. See it as a gift that when unwrapped and given away, helps someone else keep their footing. In that way, your past pain will no longer be meaningless, for it has been transformed into a smooth path for another to walk. Ultimately, what we leave behind in life is not our wealth or fame, but the footprints we have laid down to guide others. And sometimes, just one sincere story is enough to save someone from a wound we ourselves carried for years. There are people who, wherever they go, want to be the highlight, the center of every story. They are used to attention, praise, and being placed in the highest seat. But the longer we live and the more we collide with life, the more we realize that a person's value does not lie in how brightly they shine in others' eyes, but in their ability to be humble, to step back, and still radiate a quiet light from within. Humility does not mean belittling oneself or hiding one's talents. It is knowing where we stand in the grand picture of life. It is the awareness that we are but a small part of this vast world, and that everyone has their own story, talent, and worth. When we learn to listen more, to learn more, and not let our ego cloud our vision, that is when we truly grow. In a team meeting, everyone is sharing their ideas. One person sits quietly, listening, occasionally nodding and asking a few deep questions. They don't interrupt or compete for speaking time, yet every word they say makes the group pause and think. After the meeting, everyone realizes it was this person's calmness and humility that kept the discussion on the right track. They didn't need to be the one who spoke the most, yet they left the deepest impression. In life, humble people often bring a sense of comfort and approachability. They don't make others feel pressured to compete or prove themselves. Instead, they create a safe space where everyone can share, contribute, and shine in their own way. The Buddha taught, "One who knows humility has learned the lesson of water. It always flows to the lowest place, yet nourishes all life." Humility softens the heart, opens it, and makes it ready to receive new things. There's a small story. A famous potter, whose works were widely praised, was once asked at an exhibition about the secret to his success. He simply smiled and said, "I am only learning to listen to the clay and the fire, to let them tell me what they want." He took no credit for himself, but valued the whole process, from the raw material to the hands of his assistants to the fire in the kiln. This humility made people respect him even more. The life lesson is this: when we stop putting ourselves at the center, we see the world as wider, more beautiful, and more meaningful. We no longer exhaust ourselves seeking recognition, because happiness no longer depends on others' praise, but on the peace that comes from knowing we are contributing a small part to the bigger picture. And strangely enough, when we live humbly, our true value is naturally recognized, without the need to boast or compete. Living humbly also allows us to keep learning. When we know we don't have all the answers, we open ourselves to knowledge, experience, and advice. The ego grows smaller, but wisdom and compassion grow larger. This is the path to becoming not just skilled, but also beloved. And then we understand that sometimes stepping back is not about losing the light, but allowing that light to spread further, not just for ourselves, but for everyone walking the same path. There will be days when we encounter cold looks, hurtful words, or unkind actions directed toward us. Our first feelings are often sadness, disappointment, or even anger. That's natural, because people naturally want to be respected and treated well. But once the emotions settle, we realize we have two choices: to respond with harshness, or to keep our hearts warm and kind, even when others are not kind to us. The Buddha taught to meet anger with compassion, because if we respond to hatred with hatred, the cycle of suffering will never end. A harsh word for a harsh word only pushes people further apart and makes our own hearts heavier. But when we choose kindness, we protect not only our relationships, but also our own inner peace. Being kind to everyone, even to those who are unkind to us, doesn't mean tolerating wrongdoing or letting ourselves be taken advantage of. It means keeping ourselves from being drawn into their negative energy. We can still set clear boundaries while remaining gentle and respectful in our words and actions. This is the wisdom within compassion, loving without allowing ourselves to be harmed further. In life, unkind behavior often doesn't come from malice, but from invisible pain. A person who snaps might be weary from pressure. A person who seems indifferent might be lost in their own worries. If we look deeply, we see that their reactions are often not about us, but a reflection of the state of their own hearts. And when we understand this, we blame less, get angry less, and find it easier to remain kind. From a healing perspective, each time we choose gentleness over retaliation, we are nurturing peace within ourselves. Kindness is like cool water, soothing the fires of anger and resentment, not only in others, but first and foremost in ourselves. On the other hand, if we let our hearts be pulled into the negative spiral, we'll feel drained, tense, and slowly lose our natural calm. Life's wisdom also reminds us that a person's true character is measured by how they treat those who are not kind to them. It's easy to love and respect those who treat us well, but keeping our kindness when tested is the real challenge. And it is in those moments that our maturity, steadiness, and inner worth are revealed most clearly. The Buddha once said, "Hatred cannot end hatred. Only love can end hatred." When we respond to unkindness with goodwill, the other person may not change immediately, but at the very least, we've planted a good seed. That seed, when the time is right, will sprout, perhaps in their heart, or perhaps in the heart of someone who witnessed the moment. Remember, kindness is not weakness, it is strength. Because to smile while being misunderstood, to remain calm while being attacked, requires an inner power far greater than anger. And that strength is nourished by compassion, understanding, and mindfulness. In daily practice, we can start with small things. Instead of responding to unpleasant words with similar ones, choose silence or reply gently. Instead of holding on to anger, find a way to let it go early. Instead of seeing unkind people as opponents, view them as lessons that help us train the heart. Ultimately, when we treat everyone well, even if they are not kind to us, we not only brothers but also beautify our own soul. Eventually, we realize that lasting peace, serenity, and happiness do not come from winning in exchange, but from keeping our heart free from the stains of negativity. And when the heart has learned this, every road we walk becomes lighter, even if there are still those who have yet to learn kindness. There are days when we encounter someone who is frowning, irritable, or cold toward us. Our natural reaction is to feel annoyed, even angry, thinking they are unreasonable or rude. But if we pause for a moment and think deeper, we may realize that everyone is fighting battles we cannot see. These may be silent struggles, unknown to anyone else, yet they consume nearly all of their energy and attention. When you meet a cashier who looks tired and smiles little, you might think they are unfriendly. But you do not know that last night they stayed up all night caring for a sick child, and this morning they still tried to go to work to avoid losing income. Or a driver who forgets to open the door for you may have just received bad news about a parent's health. These stories don't show on their face, but they weigh heavily on their heart. In life, we often see only the surface, behavior, words, attitude, and forget the hidden depths of worries, fears, pressures, and wounds the other person carries. Like looking at an iceberg, we see only the small part above the water, while most of it lies deep below. When we realize this, we become less quick to judge, and compassion naturally arises in our hearts. There is a short story. A young man was often criticized by colleagues for leaving work early. No one knew the reason, and many assumed he was lazy. One day, the manager happened to learn that he had to rush home to care for his elderly, seriously ill mother because there was no one else. From then on, the team began sharing his workload, replacing blame with support. Just a bit of understanding was enough to close the invisible gap between people. The Buddha taught, when we understand, we will love. Understanding here does not mean finding excuses for every action, but opening our hearts to see the bigger picture. The quick-tempered may be suffering. Those who avoid others may be afraid. Those who act strong may be hiding weakness. And those who remain silent may be struggling with a sorrow they are not ready to share. The life lesson is, when we remember that everyone has their own battles, we will live a little slower, a little gentler, and a little less harsh. Instead of reacting immediately with irritation, we might ask, "Are you okay?" Or simply smile to let them know they are not alone. And do not forget that we too are fighting our own difficulties, things others do not know or cannot fully understand. If we wish to be understood, we should also be the ones to offer understanding first. These small acts can be a spark of light in someone's dark day. And who knows, One day, when we are weary, that light may return to guide us. There are moments in life when a person falls into the depths of despair. This may be when a dream shatters, a relationship ends, a loved one passes away, or when burdens pile up so high that we can no longer see a way out. In such moments, the world seems to grow dark, and even taking a single breath feels heavy. Those who have been there understand that the bottom of despair is not the absence of light, but the loss of faith in oneself and in life. The Buddha taught that life is impermanent. No pain lasts forever, just as no joy lasts forever. What matters is not avoiding all suffering, but learning to rise and keep walking, even when everything seems to collapse around us. In the scriptures, there is a story of a man who lost everything and came to the Buddha in despair. The Buddha did not promise to erase his pain, but taught him to see it as a passing rain. It comes and goes, and the sky will be clear again. To encourage those in deep despair, the first step is not to tell them, be strong or don't be sad, because such words can feel like pressure. What they need is a warm shoulder, a non-judgmental gaze, and a calm presence. Sometimes, simply sitting beside them in silence is the greatest comfort. Our presence itself is proof they are not alone. From a healing perspective, the most effective encouragement comes from empathy. Listen to them speak, allowing them to release what they hold inside. Do not rush to compare or share your own story. Let them be the center of that moment. When someone truly feels heard, they can find a small strength to take the next step forward. Life's wisdom reminds us that encouragement doesn't always need to be elaborate. Sometimes a simple, I'm here, no matter what happens, can save someone from harmful thoughts. At the bottom of despair, what people fear most is not pain, but the feeling of being abandoned. And when they know there is still someone who believes in and loves them, they find a reason to try for one more day. Buddhism teaches about unconditional compassion. It is easy to love someone when they are happy, but loving them when they are weak or broken is the true challenge. When we offer encouragement to someone at their lowest point, we not only help them, but also plant a seed of kindness in our own hearts. One day, that seed will bloom when we ourselves need support. Sometimes, encouragement must be accompanied by faith. Tell them that although everything may seem bleak now, one day they will look back and smile at having overcome it. Remind them that even the tiniest seed can push through hard soil if it has patience, a bit of sunlight, and a drop of fresh water. People are the same. With just a ray of hope, they can slowly step out of the darkness. Remember that at the bottom of despair, each person is fighting a silent battle. Never underestimate their small victories. A faint smile, the words, I'll try again, or simply stepping outside for a walk. These are signs they are reclaiming life. Praise them, encourage them, and let them see that every effort is worth honoring. And finally, when you encourage others, don't forget to care for yourself. A heart that loves deeply also needs nurturing to keep shining. When we keep our inner light alive, we can illuminate the path for others, especially those still lost in the dark. So if someone around you is at their lowest, be the hand that helps them stand, the eyes that show them faith, and the heart that lets them feel the world still has a place for them. We may not be able to walk through every hardship for them, but we can walk alongside them for a while. And sometimes, that alone is enough to save a heart from giving up. Some of the most beautiful acts are done quietly, without loud declarations. Helping in silence is the purest form of kindness. Giving without the dust of fame, without demanding recognition, only wishing the other person less suffering and more peace. In life, we've all witnessed such silent kindness. It could be someone slipping a little money into the bag of an old woman dozing on the street, or someone quietly paying the hospital bill for a stranger, leaving before they wake, or someone sweeping the shared alley every morning with no one knowing their name. These acts are not recorded on camera, and no public thanks are given, yet their value is etched deeply in the hearts of those who receive them, spreading like a warm breeze. The Buddha taught, the greatest merit is the one no one knows. When we do good without claiming credit, our hearts are light and free. We give out of compassion, not ego. This selflessness makes kindness whole. When we help with the hope of praise, we share the joy with our ego. When we help in silence, we share the joy with life itself. There's a story from a rural village. Every storm season, bags of rice, salt, and raincoats would appear at the doors of struggling families. No one knew who left them. Later, it was found to be a local bricklayer. He said, "I do it because I know hunger and cold. If someone gives me praise, they'll forget it tomorrow. But if they are warm and full, they'll remember forever." Simple words, but profound, born from a heart that has known hardship and therefore understands the value of sharing. Helping in silence also spares the receiver from feeling a heavy debt of gratitude. They can accept without the pressure to repay. Their gratitude becomes lighter and more likely to blossom into acts of kindness toward others. A single quiet act can set in motion a chain of goodness, reaching places we never imagined. The lesson here is, good deeds don't need the spotlight. When we plant seeds of kindness in silence, they still sprout, grow, and bloom in the hearts of others. Sometimes those very seeds will return to us in our weakest moments, not in material form, but as emotional support, as the warm presence of someone we once helped. So if you can help someone today, just do it, without them knowing, without anyone knowing. Let kindness be like morning dew, quietly nourishing the green shoots, disappearing before anyone notices. For sometimes, silence is the loudest voice of compassion. Some beautiful things don't need to be preached in words. They spread quietly through our actions, gestures, and the way we live each day. Positivity works the same way. It's not only found in inspiring quotes or eloquent writing, but in how we walk, how we smile, and how we face life's challenges. The Buddha taught that words may reach the ear, but actions and the way we live can touch the heart. When we keep a peaceful mind, live kindly, and behave gently, those around us will feel it, even if we never say a word. A smile for someone, whether familiar or a stranger, a sincere thank you, or patience while waiting. These seemingly small acts can spread more warmth than we might imagine. Spreading positivity through daily living is not about pretending to be cheerful or perfect all the time. In truth, everyone has moments of weariness and days that don't feel right. What matters is how we choose to face those days without giving up hope, without letting negative energy control our every action. We still try to find a point of light, even if it's just a warm cup of tea or a beautiful sunset. This choice gradually shapes a positive way of life that naturally extends to others. In Buddhism, this is the spirit of mindfulness and compassion. Mindfulness helps us be aware of every action we take, every word we speak, so that they carry wholesome energy. Compassion helps us treat everyone with understanding and love. When both are present, we become a small light in life, unpretentious, yet enough to warm someone's heart when they need it most. Healing also begins here. When we spread positivity, we not only bring good energy to others, but also to ourselves. Every kind act, every wholesome thought is like a drop of cool water nourishing the soul. The more drops we pour, the fresher our hearts become, less hardened by worry or anger. Life wisdom reminds us that people are deeply influenced by their surroundings. A family, a group of friends, or a workplace with someone who carries positive energy will feel more comfortable and warm. Instead of waiting for others to bring it to us, we can choose to be the one who plants the seed. Sometimes simply keeping a gentle voice, a friendly gaze, and an open heart is enough to make a difference. Spreading positivity doesn't mean always agreeing or pleasing everyone. Sometimes positivity comes from daring to say no, from setting boundaries to protect our mental health and that of others. A positive person is not someone who never feels sadness or anger, but someone who knows how to handle those emotions healthily without letting them become harm to others. Think about your own day. In the morning, instead of rushing with a frown, you could smile at the street cleaner. At work, instead of criticizing, you could offer feedback with respect. At home, instead of carrying stress to the dinner table, you could set it down and talk with your loved ones. These acts cost little effort, yet they are seeds of positivity planted into life. The Buddha once said, "The mind is like the earth. Whatever seeds you sow, you will reap the fruit." When we sow positivity each day, we also plant seeds of peace within ourselves. One day, when we are weary, those seeds will blossom, becoming a source of support that helps us stand firm. So, don't think you are too small to make an impact. A single ray of light can push away the darkness in one corner of a room. One positive act a day can soften someone's heart. And when these acts are repeated day after day, we will see the world around us change. Not because we forced others to change, but because we ourselves have lived differently. In the end, spreading positivity through daily living is not a heavy task, but a gentle journey. Start with the simplest things so that each day you leave behind a little light, a little warmth in someone's heart. And when you look back, you will see that you have helped make this world more beautiful simply by living kindly, mindfully, and lovingly. There will be times when we unexpectedly notice someone's mistake, a wrong action, a hurtful word, or a poor decision. Many people's natural reaction is to blame, criticize, even speak harshly, as if pointing out mistakes strongly will make the person change faster. But in reality, what opens a heart to listen and improve is often gentleness and tolerance, not pressure or judgment. Being gentle with others' mistakes does not mean ignoring or condoning them. It's about approaching with the understanding that everyone stumbles at times, and we ourselves have made mistakes too. When we look at others with compassion, we can see that behind a wrong action may be impulsiveness, pressure, unhealed wounds, or simply lack of experience. Imagine a colleague makes a mistake that delays a project. We could choose to get angry, creating a tense atmosphere. Or we could gently say, "It's okay, next time let's double check together." The second choice not only eases their pressure, but also motivates them to try harder because they feel trusted instead of being labeled incompetent. The Buddha taught, kind words are like lotus flowers, untouched by mud yet fragrant. A gentle reminder can reach the heart more deeply than harsh criticism. When we give gentleness, we are giving someone the chance to correct their mistakes with dignity, not with shame. There's a small story. A boy accidentally broke the family's precious vase. He trembled in fear, bracing for his father's anger. But the father simply and gently cleaned up the shards, saying, "As long as you're okay, that's all that matters. A broken vase can be replaced, but you cannot." Those words etched themselves deeply into the boy's heart, so that later in life, whenever faced with another's mistakes, he would choose to respond with the same gentleness his father once gave him. The life lesson is this: everyone hopes to receive kindness when they make a mistake. So why not offer it to others first? When we choose to face faults with compassion, we not only help the other person grow, but also keep our own hearts soft and undisturbed by needless anger. And one day, when we ourselves stumble, someone will look at us with understanding eyes and speak to us in a gentle voice. That's how kindness is exchanged, quietly nurturing a world less harsh and filled with more love. There are days when we rush through life, rush through work, rush to finish our own plans, forgetting that there are people around us who may need a helping hand, a smile, or simply someone to listen. Amid that rush, if we pause, take a deep breath, and ask ourselves, what can I do to help them today? Everything changes. This question is like a key that opens the door to connection, widening our heart and slowing our steps so we can truly see what is happening around us. Buddha teaches that compassion is not in grand words, but in small, everyday actions. Asking this question is like planting a seed of compassion in our mind. It reminds us that we do not live for ourselves alone, and that true happiness comes when we help ease someone's burden, even just a little. Sometimes, the answer is simple: a kind inquiry, a cup of hot tea placed on a colleague's desk, or a message of encouragement to a friend who is feeling weary. In life, we cannot always help others with material things or grand gestures. Often, what they need most is to feel seen, heard, and respected. When we ask, "What can I do to help them today?" we begin to notice more closely. Someone's eyes looking sadder than usual, their voice growing quieter, or an unusual silence. These might be signs that they need a bit of care, and we can be the one to give it. From a healing perspective, this question benefits not just the receiver, but also ourselves. When we turn our focus outward and think about others' needs, our mind becomes less consumed by our own worries or sorrows. Helping someone, even in a small way, brings a sense of purpose, and that feeling becomes a soothing balm for our own stress. The moral also reminds us that human beings are bound together through sharing. A warm society is one where each person spares a thought for others, even just a little each day. If everyone asked, "What can I do to help them today?" there would be fewer lonely hearts and fewer shoulders bearing their burdens alone. Buddhism teaches the practice of dana, giving, not only in money, but also in time, attention, knowledge, and positive energy. By asking this question, we are practicing giving every day. Each time we help someone, no matter how small the act, we are cultivating our compassion. Importantly, helping does not have to wait for the right moment. Often, in the midst of busyness, if we still find a moment to help someone, the impact can be far greater. Because helping is not just about giving, it's also a way of sending the message, "You matter to me." Imagine if this morning, before stepping out the door, we asked ourselves, "What can I do to help them today?" Maybe it's helping an elderly neighbor carry a basket of vegetables, giving up our seat on the bus, or simply offering a warm smile to a vendor. These acts, though small, can shift someone's mood and sometimes even change their entire day. And the miracle is that when we help others, that positive energy eventually comes back to us in unexpected ways. Perhaps not immediately, but one day, when we find ourselves in difficulty, someone will reach out to help, just as we once did for another. Ultimately, making "what can I do to help them today" a question we live by is not a chore, but a habit of life. It makes us more mindful, more compassionate, and more connected to others. From these small moments, we find our life becoming richer in love, in connection, and in beautiful memories that time cannot erase. Because sometimes helping someone doesn't just change their day, it might change their whole life, and ours too. There are moments when we easily open our hearts to people, yet forget that this world is also shared with countless other living beings. From the familiar animals near our homes to the grass, flowers, and even the tiny creatures we barely notice. Compassion, if limited only to humans, is not complete. When the heart is wide enough, love will spread to all beings, for all know pain, joy, fear, and the longing to live in peace. Think back to the feeling when we see a baby bird fallen from its nest, shivering under a tree. If we simply walk past, something will ache in our hearts. But if we bend down, gently place it back in its nest, or find it a safe place, we will feel an unusual warmth inside. That moment needs no words, no recognition, yet it connects us to life at its deepest level. In life, compassion for all beings can begin with very small actions. It's when we place a bowl of water in the corner of the yard on a scorching day for sparrows and stray cats. It's when we slow down on the road to avoid stepping on a line of ants on the move. It's when we refrain from throwing trash into the river so the water stays clean for fish to swim. These small gestures, when done with respect, carry profound meaning, for we are telling the world, "I see you and I honor your life." Buddha taught all sentient beings wish to be happy and avoid suffering, just like humans do. When we realize this, we understand that kindness should have no boundaries. An abandoned dog, a young tree snapped in half, or a fish caught in a net, all deserve the same care and compassion we give one another. When compassion extends beyond the human realm, we will find the world becoming gentler and far more harmonious. There's a small story. Every morning, a man would carry a bag of breadcrumbs to scatter for the wild birds along the riverbank. Someone once asked why he did this, especially when he himself was struggling. He simply smiled and said, "I feed them, and they give me peace." Indeed, when we give love to all living beings, we receive a serenity that money cannot buy, a connection to the flow of life, a reminder that we are never alone. The life lesson is this: Compassion is not limited to humans, for only when we can love all beings do we truly understand the meaning of compassion. Such love is no longer fenced in by appearance, language, or differences, but becomes an energy that flows freely, nourishing both the giver and the receiver. And when we live with a heart wide open, we will see life as a gentle symphony in which humans, animals, and plants each play a part in creating the melody. Every small act to protect and cherish life is a beautiful note, so that when the symphony plays, the world will sound softer, less harsh, and filled with more love. In life, we often judge others based only on what we see on the surface. A glance, a sentence, or a fleeting action can make us rush to conclusions. But what we see is only the tip of the iceberg, the hidden part. Their experiences, pains, joys, and unspoken dreams lies beyond our sight. That is why Buddha taught that to truly understand and connect with one another, we must learn to see others through the eyes of compassion, not judgment. When we look with compassion, we don't just see who they are in the present moment, but also recognize what they have been through to become who they are today. Perhaps someone seems cold because they have been deeply hurt. Perhaps another is quick-tempered because they are carrying heavy burdens no one knows about. Or someone may be quiet simply because they haven't yet found a safe person to share with. Understanding this makes us less harsh and less hasty to judge. In Buddhism, this is called compassion born from understanding. Compassion is not pity, it is the ability to see another's suffering and the wish to help ease it. And to have compassion, we must let go of the habit of judging. Judgment closes the door to connection, while kindness builds bridges. In daily life, this is not easy. When someone does something against our expectations, our first instinct is to react with anger, criticism, or withdrawal. But if we pause for a moment and ask ourselves, if I were in their situation, would I have acted differently? Our hearts may soften. We may still disagree with their actions, but at least we will understand why they acted that way. From a healing perspective, looking with compassion helps us keep our hearts at peace. When we are not caught up in judgment, we stop feeding resentment and irritation within ourselves. Instead, we feel lighter and may even create the chance for the other person to change for the better. Like a seed, if nurtured with empathy, it will sprout, but if met only with harshness, it will wither. Life also reminds us that everyone longs to be understood and accepted. If we wish to receive that from others, we must first give it to them. Understanding and love often create a positive cycle. When we treat others with kindness, they are more likely to return it. But if we view them only through a lens of judgment, they may build walls, and we may never truly see the person within. Buddha once said, "When you look at someone, remember that they were once an innocent child who dreamed and loved." Imagining this helps us feel closer to them, less distant, and less critical. For in the end, each of us is still learning how to live, how to love, and sometimes we still stumble. Practicing this can begin with small acts. Listening more when someone speaks instead of rushing to insert our opinion. Asking questions to understand the reason instead of criticizing, or simply giving someone a second chance. These seemingly small actions are how we learn to see with compassion each day. And remember, seeing with compassion does not mean turning a blind eye to what is wrong. It simply means choosing to approach that wrong with tolerance and a desire to help correct it, rather than with punishment. True lasting change often comes from the feeling of being understood, not from the fear of being judged. When we live with the eyes of compassion, the world around us will gradually change. We will see fewer invisible walls and more bridges connecting hearts. Then, each meeting is not just contact between two people, but an encounter between two souls, where compassion becomes the guiding light and judgment quietly fades away. Because when we can see others through the eyes of compassion, we ourselves will also be seen that way. And in that gentle gaze, everyone has the chance to heal and to become a better version of themselves. There are things we do in life that seem so small, we don't think they could make any difference. A smile to a stranger, a sincere thank you, or a comforting touch. At first glance, they seem like light ripples on a pond. But if we look deeper, we will see those ripples spreading endlessly, touching distant shores we could never imagine. Believing that every kind act creates an infinite circle of influence is what helps us live meaningfully and stay grounded in this life. Buddha taught that all our actions, words, and thoughts are seeds, and each seed will bear fruit over time. When we plant a good seed, however small, it will quietly sprout. We may not see the result immediately, but it will live, grow, and one day blossom, not only in our life, but in the lives of others. This is the spirit of cause and effect and dependent origination that Buddhism always reminds us of. Everything is connected. Nothing exists alone. In life, we have seen how a timely word of encouragement can change someone's mood for an entire day. An unexpected act of help can lift them out of hopelessness. The miracle is that when people receive kindness, they often feel inclined to pass it on, sometimes right away, sometimes years later. And so a single seed of goodness continues to grow, spreading across people, places, and generations. From a healing perspective, kind acts not only warm the heart of the receiver, but also nurture peace in the giver. When we help someone, we feel that our life has meaning, and that feeling heals the emptiness and loneliness we sometimes cannot name. This is the first circle of love, from us to others, and then back to ourselves. The moral truth also shows us that society becomes better when each person believes in the power of small things. We do not have to perform grand deeds to make a difference. The world is not only changed by heroes, but also by ordinary people quietly doing good each day. Someone who gives way, someone who says, "I'm sorry" when wrong, someone who patiently listens, all contribute to building a kind community where everyone feels safe and respected. Buddha once used the image of a single candle lighting 1,000 others without losing its flame to speak about kindness. When we do good, we lose nothing. In fact, our inner light grows brighter, and that light will continue to be passed on, spreading beyond what our eyes can see, like an endless circle on the water's surface. Imagine this. This morning, we helped someone carry a heavy bag up the stairs. That person, because they were helped, will smile at the food vendor when buying lunch. The vendor, receiving that smile, will speak kindly to another customer. And the chain of kindness continues on. We may never know how far that circle travels, but we can be certain it still exists. What's important is that we believe in this power, even when the results cannot be measured immediately. Don't think that an act of kindness is meaningless just because it's small, for it is tiny drops of water that form the ocean and the smallest specks of dust that make up this earth. In Buddhism, this is the faith in the accumulation of merit. Every small act, when gathered together, becomes a great blessing. Spreading goodness through the way we live each day is also a form of practice. We cultivate it in every word, every thought, every action. When our heart leans toward goodness, our actions will naturally follow. And when those actions touch someone, we have planted a new seed in life. In the end, remember that the circle of kindness never stops with the first person who receives it. It travels farther than we can imagine, and sometimes returns to us when we need it most. That's why, even if today we can only do something small, we should still do it, and trust that it will create an infinite ripple of goodness, a circle in which we ourselves are a part. Because when we believe and live this way, we not only make others' lives more beautiful, but also enrich and brighten our own soul. My dear friend, amid the busyness of life, each of us carries our own stories, joys, sorrows, and things we've never spoken aloud. Sometimes our hearts close up because of old wounds, or because we fear being misunderstood or betrayed. But you know, the heart only truly feels light when it opens to both receive and give love. Compassion is not something distant. It is found in each gentle glance, each warm inquiry, and each moment we have the patience to listen to someone to the very end. Opening our hearts to others doesn't mean letting ourselves be hurt again. It means choosing to see them with empathy instead of judgment. We may not be able to change the whole world, but we can change the way we face it. a kind word, a helping hand at the right moment. Sometimes these are the very bridges that help someone cross the chasm of loneliness and despair. And from that moment, we realize that we are not only helping them, but also healing ourselves. Buddha taught that compassion is the root of happiness. When we plant seeds of compassion, we do not expect anything in return, yet peace naturally finds its way back to us. Those seeds one day will blossom in places we never expect. All we need is the patience and perseverance to nurture them, and the world around us will become gentler, starting from our own hearts. So today, and in all the days to come, try opening your heart a little more. Give someone a smile, a nod, a kind question. Give yourself the chance to connect, to understand, to love without needing a reason. Because who knows, your openness may be the small ray of light that helps someone find their way out of their own darkness. May you always carry within you a gentle light so that wherever you go, you can spread warmth and love. And may each passing day bring you a reason to open your heart and a reason to smile.